Welcome to the Authors of Influence Radio. This is Jen Swanson, and I'm your host for this podcast. I'm speaking today with Marilyn Wilson, who is a freelance writer and an editor. She is very involved in the fashion industry, and she is an incredible storyteller. Marilyn's book, Life Outside the Box, The Extraordinary Journeys of 10 Unique Individuals, came out in February of 2015. And here is our conversation about topics that surround this book. Welcome to the show, Marilyn.
I am so excited to be here. It's my first interview of 2016.
Well, I'm so glad this is the place that you're being interviewed. I'd love for you to start by telling us a little bit about your story and what it is that lights you up.
I absolutely love telling my story. I was the kid growing up that didn't fit in. I was in a very religious family and just couldn't seem to fit the mold of a pretty blonde pastor's daughter, and received lots of negative feedback. Left home very early, graduated at 17 instead of 18, and headed off to university to study psychology because I found people fascinating. I found the fact that we're all different fascinating. And I was determined to be a counselor and to help people in need because I had this antenna for people that were suffering and felt really drawn to that field. It was about a third of the way through my master's when I had a professor talking to us about he actually had a practice as well and what his practice meant, the number of suicides he had, the kind of how a session was when you sat next to somebody, the 5% success rate for marriage, family, and child counseling. And I realized it was far too negative a field for me. I didn't feel that I could leave it at the office and walk away and separate myself. So I literally quit at the end of that term, and it would be 2 decades before I found my passion. I worked in offices, I sewed dance costumes, I was a ballroom dancer, I had a partner I performed, I did a lot of things and met my husband who's Canadian and decided at that time, we were a little older and I had 3 kids in 3.5 years and we really couldn't afford daycare, so I became a stay-at-home mom. Taught science in kindergarten, volunteered places, did dance, did everything I could do to keep my mind active. And when my kids were teenagers, this is more than 2 decades later, I needed a new challenge because they didn't need my time. And so I sat down on Craigslist and was perusing the job ads and saw an ad from a New York magazine wanting magazine submissions. And my thought process went, that sounds like fun. I used to get A's. I used to get A's in English in high school. How hard can it be? And I sent off 3 story ideas and 2 were accepted. They were paid articles. They were in the fashion world, and my daughter had done some freelance modeling, so she had connections to photographers. So I turned over the photography to them, and called up a few connections and did my first interview. And to this day, that was my life-changing moment. I walked in to sit with this woman I didn't know. She is a Métis in heritage. She's a producer. She did a fashion collection that honored her heritage and her mother. And I listened to her talk for 2 hours. Right now, I have goosebumps even thinking about it. I was so overwhelmed. This is what I was meant to do. My passion for people came out in my interest in interviewing, and the fact that I was so intrigued meant I was good at it. I would love to say it was easy after that. I walked away totally intrigued. The sun was shining, the air was sparkling, I was on cloud 9, and then the reality of learning how to produce an article for a magazine hit. It was a very difficult learning process. I've always, from day one, had everybody I write on give me feedback because I was working without editors at the start. And they were truthful. They were kind, but they were truthful. There were many tears because I was doing the best that I could, and it wasn't quite good enough. Over time, that magazine actually folded before my stuff came to print, so I was dumped back into the big void again, wanting to write, knowing what I needed to do. I'm 50 years old, and nobody wants me.
Mm.
So I finally, after a year, headed back to Craigslist and advertised and said, I don't care if I get paid, I just need to pursue this passion, and met a photographer who wanted to start a fashion magazine. So we started a very innovative online magazine that became print eventually, but we focused on interviewing people working in the industry. So we covered real people. I interviewed them on their life, their journey, how they came to their profession. It was an unbelievable experience. I worked 17-hour days. I collapsed at least 3 times a year on the floor. We never made money, but it was a wonderful training ground for me. It was like going to school the hard way, and I don't regret it. But that feedback from people every time is how I slowly learned where I was listening, where I wasn't listening. I also refer to that time as my schooling, because everybody was sharing their wisdom with me, their life, what they learned, how they approached hardship, what did they do when they failed, what their high points were. And after 9 years in the industry, five running my own magazine with this partner, and another 4 working with other magazines and writing my first book, I began to realize how much I've learned and how much it's changed me. It's just been a life-changing experience I wish I'd had in my 20s instead of my 50s, but it comes when it comes. And I just feel very filled with gratitude that I found my way even at a later age.
And you're still in the fashion industry.
That is where my biggest support is. So I still get a lot. I'm sorry, I'm umming a lot. I still get a lot of leads through the fashion industry. Fashion artists are very much artists. They live very unusual lives. They take paths different from the rest of us. These kind of articles are also very easy to market. So I would still say about a half of all my interviews are with people working in some form of the industry, be it hair, makeup, styling, photography, designers, magazine runners, people who run magazines. So yeah, that's still a big part of it, but I have expanded with my first book to reach a wider grouping, and that's where my aim is. I want to cover people from all walks of life. I have a little 8Q column now going in a local magazine called Metro Living Zine. I've even covered professional balloon tires.
I did not know there was such a thing.
There is such a thing. And they make money at it if they're really good.
I bet. Well, let's talk about your book, Life Outside the Box, The Extraordinary Journeys of 10 Unique Individuals. It came out in February of 2015. And what compelled you to write down the stories, and what compelled you to choose these 10 stories?
I was at a really tough place in my life at one point. The magazine that gave me my start in the industry, that filled my time and gave me my sense of worth, ended up folding. My partner and I just reached an impasse. So in May 2012, I folded that magazine and lost my identity as a writer and an editor. Went through a very dark space. I questioned whether I wanted to continue writing. And one day I sat down and said, for the next 6 weeks, I'm going to write every day, and that's what I did. And at the end of 6 weeks, I felt recharged again. Still looking for a new direction. I tried to start another magazine. That door wouldn't open. I was still working with a few magazines from far away, but the submission process is very slow. And I happened to luck into a women's networking event that Julie Salisbury of Influence Publishing was running. She shared about the industry. She shared about publishing and telling your story and its importance. I don't think I heard a whole lot, because from the minute she started speaking, I started to cry. I just knew this was the direction I was supposed to go. I knew this was the person I was supposed to work with. This was my new mentor. And I met with her a week later, showed her what I was doing in magazine work, what my articles were like, and what I wanted to do. And she was thrilled. It was a lot harder to decide after 150 interviews which 10 to put in.
I can imagine. I can't imagine.
Well, some are more interesting than others, but my goal right from the start was that this would be part of a series and that it would not be a fashion series. That really made me pick and choose those from the fashion industry that had the most interesting story or offered a point of view for the book that was unique. And then I looked through my interviews as to who was outside that world, and I added 3 new ones as well. So in the end, I ended up with 4 with connections to the fashion industry. I have the top luxury shoe designer in the US. I have an eco designer and textile artist, a perfume skincare person from Norway, and the top lingerie designer. I also managed to have a fine artist who is quite known locally in Vancouver for her Forgotten series, the spoken word poet Shane that performed at the Olympics. I had the top go-to photographer of classical musicians in New York. I had happened to interview her when she was out here during the Olympics as a part of a beauty campaign, and she doesn't do that now. She's into photographing musicians, and I added Julie, of course, who was a founder of Influence Publishing. Her story is truly unique, being at the top of her field, walking away for 7 years, and being led to found this publishing house. I have Canada's tap icon that people don't know anymore. He is historically the birth, in my mind, of modern tap in Canada. And I have somebody who founded a charity that helps downtown Eastside women. So I wanted each story to be different. I wanted to tell it from a unique perspective. I wanted them not to all be happy stories. Not all of these are happy stories. Some of these people have had really rough journeys. Some have had Midas touch journeys. The whole point is they had to be different. They had to be unique. And they had to validate in everybody's mind that every journey is unique and the journey you're on is your own, and it's just what it's meant to be.
So, Marilyn, what is it about story for you that that makes you want to share?
I don't even know how to answer that. I have been so fascinated with people and our differences and how we think and how we live since I was very young. Listening and interviewing has given me the opportunity to scratch that itch. And what I give back in a Ujamaa fashion, a cooperative economics fashion, I give back promotion for them. I give their story a voice and share it with the world to further their careers. It has changed me so much. It has taught me so many lessons. It has validated the fact that I am okay who I am. I wasn't born wrong. I don't have to change. I just have to become the best me I can be. That's a whole different thing than thinking something's wrong with you, that you have flaws that need correction. Sharing these stories with others is what I do on a daily basis. Every time I go, I share people's stories with others, and people are fascinated and want to know more. This is my chance to do that same thing to a bigger audience. I've sent it out with wings, and it's there. It's there for people to discover and to be inspired, to be brave, to accept the direction you have calling you, and to accept that what we think are our negatives are actually our talents. We just haven't found where they have to be used yet. We're trying to use them in the wrong place. It's so important to find our place in life where our talents that we are born with can grow into a beautiful garden and be a positive thing for us instead of a negative. Oh, you really need to. If you could just change that. The things that I got told that when I'm growing up have proved to be my greatest strengths when I'm interviewing. I cannot say enough as you are born exactly who you are meant to be. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I agree with that, and I think it's good that you're able to share that with the world and share that insight. I was going to ask if you have a sense of who's reading Life Outside the Box.
It's been an interesting journey because locally I know who reads my articles and magazines, and I get feedback from that. I mean, they range as early as late teens. They go as high as mid to late 60s. I've been in beauty salons where I put a magazine and seen men reading them. But when it comes to a draw, biography is not a popular category nowadays. So people who read it are looking for inspiration. I would say women, especially 30 to 50. That's the age we as women try to come into our own. We need to accept ourselves. We need to move forward and have confidence, and we need to embrace our unique journeys. We need to quit shaming each other or making judgment on each other, because our journeys are not meant to be the same. Just because somebody travels a different path doesn't mean they're on the wrong path. They're on the right path for them. And so I do find a bigger audience among women, especially as most of them have made sacrifices to be married, to have children, and they're looking to re-embrace their passions as their children grow. Maybe change jobs, find something more satisfying. Now, on the male side, it's not as easy to understand, but I do tend to get men that need permission to step off the path they've been on for a long time.
Mm.
Men in particular have been brought up to get a job, to embrace a job, to be the breadwinner, to be stay at that job a long time and move up through the ranks. And sometimes that's not a satisfying journey or where you're supposed to be. I think men more than women are pressured to stay in situations that they're not happy for. I still think men right now are a minority in my readership. When I speak, I get good response from them, but picking up the book, I think it's more a female audience.
And when you speak about the box, where does the box come from?
I am so pleased. Julie, my publisher, picked that title, and from the moment she said it, it hit for me. I feel like the analogy is that we are born, and our parents and our society have a little box or a little scenario that we're supposed to fit in. Surely in my case that was, I was a cute little blonde girl in South Dakota with a minister husband in a very, very, very strict church, and I was supposed to smile, I was supposed to be calm, I was supposed to not have temper tantrums like I did. On and on and on. We have expectations. The box is the expectations that surround us growing up. I put them on my children as well. It's very hard not to try to raise your children to be who you think they should be. I don't think it's done out of meanness. I think it's just part of the process. And we as children at some point have to accept that this little world, this box we've been put in and had created for us, may not be the one we're comfortable in. Hopefully our parents are able to let go of it as well as we do. But that box keeps us from seeing the possibilities outside. It keeps us from opening the door to see possibilities we haven't thought of. I had one Zen chaplain tell me probably the most amazing thing I've ever heard, and that was, do your research, think about everything you need to do when you're considering something. And then when you have all the knowledge you can have, get really, really quiet. Get quiet, empty your mind, and let your intuition bubble some ideas up, because our intuition can think of things we can't conceive.
Absolutely.
Our mind is limited by the rules we've been given and the pressures around us and the societal expectations. To step outside of that is scary. And unless we've been brought up to do that, and most of us haven't, it's not an easy step. So part of this book and part of sharing stories and talking to people around you is just embracing the wealth of journeys and recognizing what we think is normal is not normal to them.
Mm.
It's amazing to do this. It's amazing to sit and hear somebody who made all different decisions than you, made decisions you'd find totally scary, and they did it with great calm and confidence. It's eye-opening, and it's very freeing.
And you must learn a tremendous amount.
Yes. Every single person. It's come through several people. Ruthie Davis, who's an amazing entrepreneur and a luxury shoe designer, just gifted, talked about the importance of having a team around her and having a good team around her and how she wouldn't have made it without a good team. Catherine Susie talked to me about redefining my relationship with my clothing. We're told what to wear and what's acceptable and what's in trend. She says, but really, is that what you want? Do you want your clothing to have meaning to you? So now I buy clothing that has meaning to me. It's often made by people I know or has a story to it. It's made by some little charity in Tibet. Or I love having clothing with a story to it. Shane talks, the spoken word poet, talked about just loving yourself. There's a thing he says, I can't remember it, but if you don't love who you are, look in the mirror a little longer.
Mm.
Look in the mirror a little longer. William Orlowski is probably my favorite. He's my icon. I want to grow up to be him one day. He did tap, and then when his style of tap went out of favor, his company that traveled the world had to kind of go in recession, and then he was struck down with very aggressive dystonia, and the journey has been tough. And I've asked him many times, "What's the secret to success or living a good life? What do you do?" He says, "There's no secret. Just get up every day. Just do and be brave." Just get up every day, just do and be brave. I get goosebumps every time I repeat it. It's very simple, but it's very true, and that's what he does. He gets up every day. He does painting, he does choreography, he does whatever he can do for as long as he can do it. Every single day. He makes every single day work. So I mean, I don't even know how to define the good lessons. You know, some of them aren't even in this book. The concept of Ujama came to me from my Zen chaplain when I interviewed her for an article. And Ujama is a day in Kwanzaa. It's about cooperative economics where the whole village comes together to raise the status of the village instead of one person climbing on top of another. And I've used that concept to define who my friends are and my business associates are. I look for relationships now where we're equally supportive.
Collaborative and
everything's collaborative. Sometimes I'm in the audience clapping, sometimes they're in the audience clapping, and it has changed who my friends are. It has improved how my business runs 100%. All these concepts came to me. Wabi-sabi, Japanese, there's beauty in imperfection. They take a cracked bowl and fill the crack with gold. So I started to look at myself that way. There's beauty in my imperfections. And when I began to accept that, I began to recognize that there were times in my life these imperfections were actually my talents. It changed how I looked at my uniqueness because I don't fit into all situations. And I allowed myself that. That's okay. It's okay. So all the concepts I've learned have changed me. I feel like I've gone to university, and a wisdom university, as people all shared pieces of how they approached life and thought about it with me. It's changed me tremendously, and I hope the book offers a bit of that to everybody else too. I hope at the end, after reading such diverse stories and hearing the wisdom these people offer, that people will feel freed to accept themselves, to listen to their intuition, to take a risk, to dare, to get up and be brave every day and dare to do something they've always wanted to do.
What's next for you, Marilyn? What's I know this is a series and this is the first in a series. What's next that's brewing inside you?
I want to do more books like Life Outside the Box. That is the series. It's going to be under the brand Real People, Real Lives. Some will be very similar to the first. I'm hoping as I develop readership, I can use lesser and less known people, give average people living extraordinary lives a voice. I love to give voice to those who have none. I want to do a couple branded books as well. Where the focus is on people working in certain areas. One is fashion, but I don't want the regular fashion designers. I want the Colombian designer who is using her ancestral village residents to weave her cloth. And I want people doing extraordinary things. I have one on sexual diversity I'd like to do. Just so much coming up. I've just signed up for Periscope. I would love to do some tandem interviews. I haven't tried. I had to get a new phone, and I just got that. I have a meeting tomorrow about involvement with a magazine that I really can't talk about. I don't know that that's coming up, but the doors seem to be opening on a regular basis. The challenge is sitting down every day and getting those next books written. It's important. The time is right. I can feel that now that it's time to move forward with the next book and offer the next installment. I have even considered with a friend doing books where themed books where women or people within a certain industry submit their stories. So think Chicken Soup for the Soul, but people would be writing their stories for me and we would be editing and compiling them. I've considered that as well. So there's lots on the table. Not enough hours in the day.
It sounds like not.
There's never enough hours in the day. And with my husband just recently retired, I'm also working now with somebody in the house where I've always had great solitude. So a lot of adjustment in the new years.
It sounds like
I'd like to get more into speaking. I do a lot of small time speaking, but I would like to do more speaking again, to share these stories, to share the message. You are exactly who you're meant to be. You're on the journey you're meant to be. It's not about changing, it's about learning and becoming the best you can be and finding your talents and finding where they need to be used. So I would love to have a bigger voice and encourage and mentoring people. I also love students and people just coming out of school. I would like to open up some mentorship opportunities there. I haven't quite figured that one out. All while my husband's retired.
And he's saying, "Hey, honey, aren't we going traveling?"
Well, hoping traveling comes with this. Hopefully traveling can be a part of this.
Well, the passion just comes through the voice. I'm not sitting in front of you, but we have spent a little bit of time together, and it was the same. It was the same face to face, but I'm sure the listener can hear how much this means to you. And
I always know I'm doing it okay despite the ers and ums and stutters when I get goosebumps. I've had goosebumps 4 times during this. That means I am telling you something I'm supposed to tell you. It's not just that it means something to me, but when I get goosebumps, I know that message is for somebody listening as well. So whoever you are, or whoever you are in plural, I am telling you, take a moment and dream big and look at those dreams, and here come the goosebumps again. Listen, it's meant to be said. I feel this very strongly. We as women don't give ourselves enough credit. We have great strength and resilience, and our dreams are big, and embrace something new. One tiny baby step tomorrow, just one. So there's
your takeaway. That's
well,
perfect.
honestly, it's meant to be said. I can feel it in my bones, and like I said, when I talk, I get goosebumps at those prime moments. So I'm really honored that you allowed me this time to share this message, because it's so very important to me and it drives me, and it is my passion, is people's stories and sharing those stories. They will change your life. Talk to the person next to you on the bus tomorrow. What do they do? Ask a question. Share your story.
Absolutely a good step. Where can people find you and connect with you?
There are a lot of places. I do have a general website under MarilynRWilson.com. It has links to my blog where I do most of my writing. The blog is called Olio by Marilyn .com, and that's OLIO, meaning a melange. So it's just a wide variety of subjects, from book reviews to fashion to inspiring people. My Twitter is under @Olio by Marilyn, and Facebook you can find me under MarilynRWilson.com. I mean Marilyn R. Wilson. What is it? .facebook.com? I'm not sure. But I have quite a few followers, and I do have a writer's page there. Links to everything are on the main website, but all the fun happens at Olio by Marilyn. That's where I get to write and share, and all the activity happens.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing and taking this time today. I'm sure that you'll get great feedback from this conversation, and I look forward to watching what you're going to be doing next.
And you still owe me a cup of coffee face to face.
I do. All right. Take care, Marilyn.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Authors of Influence Radio. My name is Jen Swanson, and you can come on over and say hi to me at communicationdiva.com, where I've got a podcast and a blog on all things related to soft skills and helping you to improve your communication. Marilyn Wilson would love to hear from you as well, so be sure to head over to her website, check out her blog, and drop her a line and let her know how much you've enjoyed listening to the show, and I hope that you pick up a copy of Life Outside the Box, because I'm sure you will find yourself truly inspired. That's all for now. Make sure you keep reading and support those authors who put their heart and soul into the work that they do. Until next time, take care.